Good evening and welcome to this part 2 of episode 48 of the South African Equestrian Federation's podcast From the Horse's Mouth. If you've just joined us, we're restarting our discipline spotlight on tent pegging in South Africa. We had a few technical difficulties, so thank you for bearing with us. Tonight I'm speaking to 2018 world champion Beverly Hexroth from Tentpegging, South Africa, about this wonderful sport that involves swords, lances, and riding at full gallop to be very accurate with your horse. What could be more exciting, of course, than sharp objects and horses? Bev, it sounds completely terrifying, but very exciting to watch. Thank you so much for joining us tonight.
Oh, no. Thank you for having me, and apologies for any technical difficulties. I am in the Northern Cape, so it is far away, on the other side of the country.
Well, we really appreciate
Yeah,
you dialing in. Thank you.
cool.
Do you mind giving us a brief overview of what tent pegging is for people, perhaps like myself, who might be a little bit ignorant and not completely familiar with your discipline?
Okay, cool. So it's a sport where we measure our rider's accuracy on a horse at the speed. We have a track that can be between 150 to 200 meters long. So you're dealing with someone who has either a lance or a sword in their hand while going for an object. So the object could either be a cardboard peg or a lemon or a ring. But the lemon we actually try to cut in half. So it's really exciting. It's a very adrenaline pumping sport because of the speed, but at the same time, like you got to focus. You really have to be accurate, and practice makes perfect.
That's quite an overlap of skills there between the equestrian part of things and then the accuracy element.
Yeah, no, it is. It's something that I think makes us a lot different. I think in other sports, the higher you want to get, the better breed your horse should be. There can be some prejudice if you go into an arena and you have a bit more of a showy horse whose legs are extending and looking beautiful versus a horse that could be, not cracking up as well. Where in tent pegging, you really can have all sorts of horses. We do have a bit of a mixed, I want to say, like, bag. There are people that want a purebred, and then there's some people like myself who like a good mix. I see it as like a sliding scale
That's
where
lovely.
you have one side, yeah, you have like a thoroughbred on the one side and a Clydesdale on the other, and you say you want something in between. You want something that can make the speed, but not going to run away with you every time you have to go fast.
So, so talking about tent pegging, how did you first become interested in it? What drew you to the sport?
My mom. My mom is my inspiration. She's the one who introduced me to this. Her father introduced her to the sport. And just her love of horses and her passion for the well-being of horses. I think, having seen she was from, say, Marydale, they joined tent pegging. She moved to Cape Town and she continued doing tent pegging. She then moved to Durban and she continued tent pegging. And I think that has always made me, want to do something with her. I think my mom, it's sort of like, if you want to do something with me, we're doing horses. So are you in or are you not? And I remember, like, I think I was cantering at 3
Oh,
in the
wow.
field by myself. So yeah, it was like, are you coming along? This is where we're going. And yeah, and I was always teeny tiny. I'm very short. So I always had to practice extra hard and hang off the horse completely to try get this
I would imagine,
object.
yeah, being quite
Um,
tall and having long limbs would be in your advantage in tent pegging.
exactly. And like, I think that's what my hubby and I argue about the most. He's so tall. I'm like, it's easier for you. I promise.
It's kind of like
So
being a
yeah,
short
no,
basketball player. You are at quite a disadvantage. I'm on your side.
thank you. Thank you. No, I do have to stretch down a lot further than everyone else. I'm convinced. I'm convinced.
Would you mind talking to us a little bit about the historical origins of tent pegging and how the sport has evolved to what it is today?
Perfect. So you had mentioned like military origins, definitely something to do with the army and the exercise and the practices back in the day. If you look really back to old photos, you can see the guys sort of jousting at something, and it was really, they were hitting the tent pegs that held the tents up, right? So either it was a military tactic where you'd pull the tent pegs out and the tent would fall on your enemies, or it was something more I think, of a joke. Look, I wasn't there, so I can't tell you. But someone said like they used to do it to the officers, and like it was just something, you'd come past one after the other and pull the tent down. So either it was practice or it was just joking around. But anyway, 10 years ago, ITPF came about, which is International Tentpegging Federation. They came around, and they're a committee of different countries, because as the world was experiencing tentpegging, it sort of just took on a lot of forms. And then when we'd get together country versus country, it's like, but I don't ride with a sword, and you don't cut lemons in half, and this one's not doing that. So ITBF really came about, and it's sort of streamlined the sport to South Africa. We got our overheads in, so we really wanted to have rings and lemons in, and other countries really wanted multiple runs of certain things. And we only do 2 runs in South Africa, other countries do 3 runs. So a run is like from start of the track to the end of the track, that's 1 run. So an event or a competition item is 2 runs of one thing, and then you change your sword, or you change, either you're going to go with your pair or you go with 4, which makes it a section. So it's like a team event. You have partners. Yeah, so it is
They standardize
it.
it.
That I'm trying to, they try to make it like we all do the same thing, so that when you get to the other country, you know what's coming, you know which events you're going to do. It's not, in Netherlands and other countries, I've seen YouTube videos where they shoot the balloon on the floor, and I'm like, I've never done that. And I'm 2018 world champ, never shot a balloon on the floor. So I think ITBF is there just to formalize the sport and have everyone conform and have unity. And it has meant that a lot of countries have to compromise on the format, but at least we're all speaking the same definition, if I could say it that way. We all now know what tent pegging is.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense. Could you explain the basic rules, and what would you expect to see coming into either watch or compete at your first tentpegging competition?
Okay, cool. So there's objectives. So the objective is to get points. You get points when you hit and strike a target. So a target can be a 60 mil peg, where if you hit it and you take it all the way with you, you get 6 points. Like if you hit it and you flick it up and you hope you make it 10 meters after the hole, then you also get 6 points. But if you just touch it and it just shuffles in the hole, or you just nick it on the side, you only get 2 points. If you touch it and you hit it hard enough and it actually comes out of the hole that it's planted in, you get 4 points. So that's how you rack up your points during the day. But each run, like I had mentioned, you have to do a certain speed. So in South Africa, for 50 meters, you have to do 4.3 seconds on your horse. So that's like 1, 2, 3, 4, and your run's done. So it is quite a pace.
What does that equate to in kilometers per hour? Do you know?
I was like something like 40 something. Honestly,
that's impressive.
Well, I'm not very good at maths off my head, so
it's okay.
Please don't quote me.
You're good at tentpegging, Dave. It's fine. It's fine.
I just click it and I click the whole time. If you see me come past it, and there goes Bev. She's clicking the whole way down. And then overseas, they actually changed it. So instead of 50 meters, it's 80 meters. But you do get 7 seconds. So even though the distance is longer, so you have to go a bit faster for a bit longer, but it's still the same pace. Which is so what you'll see is someone come in, they'll start. I think, in my opinion, you should always have a nice controlled start, ultimate run. Like that's what a tentpegger dreams of, is the ultimate run, where your horse is in your hand. Like I said, you only have one hand and you're in a light forward seat. So there's no dressage, sit back, half halt. There's nothing. There's none of that. You've got to hope that he understands, and I have an amazing.
I suppose it comes down to the training, in between. So the training has to produce the results on the day.
No, it's the ultimate. Like I have a retired boy, as I was saying, and he knew if I sat down, we waited and we cantered. And the minute I took my light seat, he knew, like, Mom, it's game time. I need to go. Let me go. And then as we hit about 10 meters after the peg, I sit down again, and that was it. And like he just made like my life, like he is my pride and joy. He is retired, and I will let him live his good life on the green Kikuyu in Durban, because he deserves everything. So that's how I feel. And I think when it comes to the horse, the one guy in my team said, the more you train them, the better the experience. Like
Of
it
course.
only gets better. And like I think he's actually the singing cowboy. I don't know if you know anyone
Yes.
from Mava.
Yes.
So he does tent-pegging.
Oh,
Can you
that's
believe it? It's our
amazing.
claim to fame. And I always thought, like, what if you overtrain a horse? Like, what if his like your leg touches him and now he moves off and you can't reach the target? And he just said to me, literally in August, he's like, Bev, the more I train it, like the better
Better it
the
gets.
event, the
Yeah.
better the competition. Like it's only gets better. So like I've always said, like your horse should be like at least novice dressage. Like you should be able to canter and collect and extend and get him
Right.
off your leg
Absolutely.
and all that sort of stuff makes your day better.
The thing
And like if your
that's,
day can
yeah.
be better, you'll do better. Yeah.
I think what's interesting is basically just good schooling is the foundation of every discipline. You're just going to have a better time if your horse goes
Exactly.
and stops and turns, right? Um,
Exactly. Yeah.
you're speaking a lot about the training of the horses, but I know, for example, when you won the World Championships in Oman, you draw horses out of a hat. So you're
Yeah.
so I think that's quite interesting, and I know we're going to speak about barriers to entry in the sport later on, but you said earlier on it can be any kind of horse. It's reliant on the
Yeah.
training, but then it's the rider's skill that hugely comes into play.
Yeah.
And how do you
I
train
think,
besides being on the horse, Bev?
yeah, no, exactly. So is a few parts of your conversation. So the part where I get overseas, like I am meeting this horse for the first time. They will be praying over this horse. I'm like, girl, please don't kill me and we'll be good. So if I look at the time I have, so with my horses, I want them to accept the bit. I want my saddle to be fitting. I want everything to be perfect. I get not even an hour with this horse, this new horse. I get given, the equipment. And what I've been doing in the last few years is I take a bit of a softer bit. I find that, the horse can be quite I want to say green, and then they've got this really strong bit in her, like this is just overseas. And then I've put a softer bit in, and I've used a thing called a market harbor. It's actually what they train racehorses with. Now, it's not something you just jump into. I get it. But remember, I have one hand and I'm in a light seat. Like
Mm.
it's not something now that you can grab this horse and now you're riding her with this market harbor. It's something that just helps me keep her head down and not break my nose. I've often got on and actually opted for the least trained horse so that it can be like they're actually a lot less like they're more calmer versus like they're like, oh, this horse has been tent-pegging for years. Like, no, I don't want that one. That one goes too fast, you know.
Yeah, they've got too
So
many buttons.
they got way, that one's just way too fast, and he thinks he has to run. So I've often put a market harbor on, shortened my stirrups. I have what we call a pickup strap, which I uh, borrowed with pride from my attempt to do horseball. You should have horseball on. It's a you're swinging off.
Yeah.
And I thought, I'm not short, and I have to swing that low. I want a pickup strap, and so when I go over, I do the most I can to get to the horse to where it needs to go. So whether that's a training aid, whether that's a pickup strap to make sure I don't
Bite it.
fall off overseas and my medical aid like has a heart attack. So there's that. And then but when I come home, I think that's also very important. Like since coming this being here, my hubby also does tent pegging. He says he's ridden horse a lot, but he doesn't tent pegging as often. I'm like, I ride. I love riding. I love having my horse in my hand. Like I
Mm.
said, I want to be in a water fit. So like I know that's also, but or French link, something super soft and one hand, and she must just canter and wait for my like wait. I think that's why I call it wait
Wait.
horse. You have to wait for me.
So you've got
So
hectic
yeah,
schooling elements actually to things, and then just to go back to what skills you as a and not as a rider but as a tent pegger need.
yeah.
Is there any way that you can train your weaponry, which sounds terrifying? I can't believe I'm using that in a equestrian conversation. But I hope the show jumpers don't know that you're allowed to have swords at an event. I'm joking. Show
Yeah,
jumpers, please don't
yeah.
come for me. But that and your accuracy, how do you combine those?
So this is what's the word? Not everyone does this. It's something my mom
Are
and
you giving
I
us some trade insights? We're getting some
yeah,
expertise
yeah,
here.
something my mom and I came up with, and we've seen the effect of it like rolled out with the kids. So I started running Tentpegging. So like physically, because right, my hand has to be still on a horse. So if my hand can be still while I physically
Right.
run, I can absorb that, and it's like my elbow or my shoulder here completely detaches, and I can be physically running, and my lance isn't moving.
Mhm.
So that's for me, like I do that to get my eye in and not tire my horse out. So if I'm finding that I'm going through a phase where I'm really not good, now you have to ride your horse for an hour before you start actually picking things up, isn't my style. So I'll go back to like the basics, which is then me getting off and me doing the hard work of running up and down. And I make the object really small, so it's like obviously like to scale because I'm physically running. And then I just go until I can get 10 in a row. And if I don't get 10 in a row, I start again. Like if you get to number
That's
9
great.
and you miss, you start again. And it's up to you to not run yourself like broken. So
Yeah,
yeah, we did it with kids, and the one girl,
that's
she
great.
literally had just done that, and her first event, she got all the rings. I mean, there's 6 rings to get throughout the day, and she got all of them. It was like the first time we'd ever seen a beginner get all her rings, and we were like, what was the difference? You know, what was the recipe? And I was like, she ran. She broke her arm and couldn't ride her left arm, so she ran rings for like months. And when she finally got onto the horse, she was accurate because she knew how to
Mm.
absorb everything
Yeah.
off her body.
A
So,
lot of
so that's
riders.
little trade secrets.
A lot of riders from a lot of disciplines could stand to be more, we expect our horses to be athletes. We could
Yeah,
probably do well to be a little more athletic ourselves a lot of the time. You
yeah.
spoke about like using a market harbor and playing around with bits and having a pickup strap. Are there any specific tack rules in tent pegging?
So the one like so the pickup strap ties the 2 stirrups together, right? We don't approve like the tying of the stirrup to the saddle. Like that part, so the pickup strap still allows movement, whereas like tying yourself to the saddle is a no-go.
That's a
We
shame.
are
I might consider tent pegging if you let me tie myself to the saddle, Bev. But carry
Yeah,
on.
I mean, yeah, like a little like strap. It's like when you watch that, if you watch on Instagram, those kids are doing barrel racing. I'm thinking,
Yeah.
how are they holding on? And then when they zoom in, they're like strapped by the leg. I'm like, that's
Yeah.
not even that's cheating. So no strapping yourself in. If I think about equipment, nothing that hurts the horse. It is a place we actually internationally we have a vet at every event. So the minute the horse
Right.
starts showing, yeah, if you're not allowed to hit the horse more than 3 times, um, and that's just like around. If someone sees you like take a bigger whip, they'll just say, no, sorry, not for you today. And then it's it's a lot of like in the mornings they check like the horse is now limping, it gets
Okay.
taken away from the event, like you're not allowed to do. So it's not a matter of like I haven't seen stuff that's like inappropriate, right? It's we're aligned with
Welfare
FEI and
principles.
all that stuff,
That's great.
so if something is now no longer allowed, you know it's not allowed. So I think we do have a lot stronger stuff. I think it is it is something that you don't have your body to like half hold the horse, or so you do need something to hold. And I know a lot of people like a straight bar because they feel like it just keeps the horse straighter and easier to correct. And I'm like the opposite. I'm like the more bobbles and the more the horse isn't hanging on
Mm.
me, then I'm happy.
That's a
So
bit of personal
I think
preference, as long as it's
yeah, and I guess yeah, and
kind.
it's the time you put it right.
Mm.
It can be a
It
thing.
always comes down to training, unfortunately.
Yeah, yeah,
You spoke about team events versus, I think you said dual versus individual.
yeah.
What are the different competition structures or event
Cool.
structures?
So yeah, so at the end of the day, you get your points as an athlete. So you'll get like at the moment I think it's 180 in South Africa. So at the end of the day, your score goes as many of the things that as you got. During the day, you either have to participate by yourself, hold an individual run where it's just you and the horse and your time. If you go too slow, it comes off your own individual points. And then you'll pair up. So you'll have a half section or I said a partner, a pair, and the 2 of you go down together. And that's when you have to be super uniform. You have to be like in sync. And like it must look like one flow movement. And then you add 2 more people. So you have 4 horses going at 4.3 seconds over 50 meters at the exact same time while you do all your drills at the exact same time so that you can all get 8 points. So those 8 points for like being even and doing it right, don't come to your individual points, but you do get the point for getting the object. So you'll get the 6 points, but then your team gets 8 points. So another team can also then get all their 6s, and then either they get 7 for style because they weren't together at one point, and then you get 8. And that's how they decide who was the better team. And then same with pairs, you get 4. So it's like these extra style points that you get. So style points only happen in South Africa. So that's something that we
So that wouldn't
very
happen at an international competition.
yeah, and I think it's something to be proud of. I think the South African feeling, it's like something we do agree on, is that we want to keep us calm. We want to keep looking controlled. We want to look together. So overseas, you don't lose points if you aren't together. It's just about the accuracy. Like you just need to pick the target. Where in South Africa, we've made it clear that we want to keep that. And we want to make sure that, when kids arrive, that the one horse doesn't run off and the kid left behind, and that horse gets a bit antsy. So
technically, it's all part of accuracy. Everyone should be able to have a uniformed attack, I suppose.
And I think that's the fun part, right? Because in dressage, don't come for me. In show jumping, don't come for me. You stand miles away from the other horses, even when you're busy getting like awarded. This horse is having a little yell, and please don't come too close. But with us, like we're next to each other, we're knee on knee. Those 4 horses they're so bomb proof. It's so nice to ride a Tentpegging horse. Like I'm telling you, if you were to just say, listen, can I come try your Tentpegging horse? You'll enjoy them. They can jump. They can do barrel racing. They can do anything. You can shoot off them.
Yeah.
They are so bomb proof that you can enjoy going on an outride and sitting next to your best friend, because your 2 horses are just know that this is what happens, and we just walk next to each other, So that part we've always enjoyed. And I think as a team sport, it teaches a kid that yes, your individual points and how you show up on the day are very important, but you have to have a moment where you also stay close to your team so that you don't mess up that person's role. So if you decide it's all about me and you bugger off and off you go, the 3 now have to hold their horses. They're just imbalanced, and now it's absolute chaos. And you don't give them their perfect run. Remember, everyone's going for that ultimate run. So you have to be selfless enough to give someone else the opportunity to also get their like perfect run.
That's nice because
making sure you're accurate. Yeah.
There are not a lot of opportunities for team play, especially for kids in equestrian sport. So that's really lovely. And you're doing a very good job of selling it, I must say. It's everyone's going to want to ride a Tentpegging horse.
Yeah. Team sports are always so against another team. Like I tried to play box once, but the minute the person actually came to spar with me, I lost, or I can't have like actual conflict in my direction. I ride with a lance and sword, but I'm not against anyone. And I think that's what makes Tentpegging amazing. Like you're against yourself. If you
with
do well,
other
you
people.
do well. Yeah. So it's not like you now have to beat that person. Like if you fencing, for example, you only get better as you beat everyone else in the game. This is like you at the end of the day, you look around, you're like, you did well, I did well, great, well done. So it's not like this like that person lost against Bev, and now it's so it's quite nice that way, where it makes it different. It's you do well, and you have a team to do well.
I think that's it sounds like it's pretty pivotal to the sport. With what is the international presence of Tentpegging? You yourself, of course, have competed at the World Games. What kind of international tournaments should people be aware of? Is the World Champs an annual thing?
Yeah, so I think World Champs, I don't want to say every 2 or 4 years. Now, look, this year was the first time South African female got to go to the World Cup. So I was quite very privileged. So we used to choose a men's team and a ladies team. Now we choose a merits team, a men's team, and a ladies team. So merit means you're there on merit, which is an amazing opportunity. So men out there who don't want to do jumping and dressage and your wives do, Tentpegging is a place where you can flourish. The men are very accurate. They are very good and very hard to beat. You have to really have your head in the game as a lady to cut out all that and really, I'm up against people trouble my heart, and I'm like, so it's like that. But like you were saying about the presence, we're in the ITPF. They host a few events during the year, and we get to send our top teams. We also have junior champs, so it's the South African junior champs happening in Rates in December. That always, if you follow us, our SA Tentpegging, we go live for anything. Like if there's something,
Is that on
someone will be
Facebook and
live.
Instagram?
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah.
that's
So
wonderful. So
you can,
people can tune into your social feeds and actually
oh
watch the
yes,
tournaments.
oh yes.
That's
And like we
fantastic.
think no one's watching until they message us like, hey, the feed's not working. And we're like, okay,
That's
fixing it.
lovely.
Sorry. Yeah. So, and then there's the men's team, Merit's team, happens to be all men this year. They are going to Saudi Arabia in December. So
Awesome.
that is in like a group of countries coming together to compete. And yeah, so we do have opportunities. It is getting harder, like the sports, all equestrian sports. It's getting tighter. The number of people who can afford to buy a new horse and keep it for a whole year is dwindling. So yeah, but we do have a presence, and thanks to the ITBF for always hosting and planning and organizing. I don't think if it wasn't for them, it wouldn't be so formal and like, you know,
Mm.
on time and full.
That's no, it's fantastic, and it always takes. We've spoken on the podcast as well to people who are officials in the sports, across the disciplines, and it's really essential to have those impassioned people behind the scenes, like you say, to organize, to manage, to facilitate. It's really wonderful to have them
Yeah.
involved. What kind of
Yeah.
physical and mental preparation is required for people to compete in tent pegging? So you spoke
So,
about the running, which I think is great.
yeah, I've every time I've gone overseas, I've actually joined a gym and a gym instructor to get me strong, to be able to hold those horses overseas. There's push-ups. I remember this one guy came to me, he's like, 40 push-ups, 40 pull-ups, 40, and I was sit-ups, and I was like, yeah, I'll stick to like 20, you know. So there are some guys who still to this day are doing 40 push-ups, 40 sit-ups, and 40 pull-ups, I think, every day to stay fit for the sport. But mentally, my mom took it a step further, and we actually went to a sports psychologist to learn about hard eyes and soft eyes and focusing and just mentally visualizing. So my best year where I rode like 100%, so 100 out of 100, so I didn't miss anything, was the year where I just, every night, I would just visualize the entire run, and I visualize the perfect run. I visualize the run where my horse doesn't have the right leg, or my horse has decided to spook at something. I visualize every sort of situation and visualize myself,
That's
swooping down,
fascinating.
keeping the style focused. It goes into muscle memory eventually. So when you come to the day, your brain is so trained that it looks at the situation and says, I know what my body needs to do. So when I start stressing and I'm worried about something, my body just, takes over if I'm mentally prepared. If I'm not mentally prepared, like this year, I don't do so great.
That's
But
that's
generally
lovely
speaking,
insight.
mentally prepared. Yeah.
Are there any, it sounds obviously, it sounds more dramatic, I think, than it is with lances and swords, but are there any safety concerns or considerations for horses and riders? Sounds like you guys are nailing it with horse welfare. Um,
Yeah.
are there any
So
worries with riders?
we have had our accidents. They are not of a good nature when it does happen. Um, we have changed the one event. There was like a very little space. You ran right after the horse behind you, and you got like points if you weren't close enough. Now people have sort of said, you know what, rather keep like safety. We ride that event early in the day, so you're not riding it at like dusk, so you can't see. So that event is one after the other. So what happens if someone does drop a weapon? Because in most events we're next to each other, it's kind of okay. That event saw probably the most injuries because the guy in front of you drops, and now you have to go directly over his the track, and there's a lance jumping, and you don't know which way it's going. So that was sort of the most dangerous one of them. It's called relay internationally. And what we've done now, I even start so far back that there is a judge standing suggesting where you should be. But I personally leave a lot more space. And if all of us leave enough space, then our spaces get judged for uniformity
Nice.
rather
That's
than
clever.
you guys were too far away. Yeah. So if Bev decides, listen, I'm going to be far away and my rest of my team says no, then we'll get a mark down. But if if you all stretch it a bit and you're all equally, the judge generally will say, you know what, you guys are being safe. Look, there is a rule that like when number one hits the peg, I better be in the track. I can't be there at the tuck shop eating a chip and waiting my turn. I do have to be in the arena, and I have to be aware, and I have to be at least, present and past the starting point. Yeah. So that's like the one, I say, event that we really focused on fixing.
Improving.
And like, again, the kids don't get the point. So kids don't get like a point if they haven't started yet. We give them like a little flip.
Oh,
and they like
nice.
push it down. And when they get to like upgrade to a point, and you can see the excitement. So and you walk past, like lance between the horse's ears, and they have to keep the lance perfectly. So they're not stabbing anyone. Yeah.
Yeah, especially the horse's ear. I suppose that's like a self-fulfilling prophecy. If you're going to mess it up, the horse is going to tell you. So obviously, this very rich cultural elements to tent pegging in certain regions. Would you mind just briefly? Obviously, it doesn't apply to South Africa, but I think it's quite interesting.
Yeah. So while RTPF was sort of looking at how to bring us all together, they realized that there were some countries that really enjoy traditional dress. This you'll see Pakistan, the horses are adorned with like bells and breastplates, and the guys are like in their traditional outfits. And it is quite an environment to like be part of, and it's the excitement. So they make those events where you can, come as you are and show your culture, and as well as try to be accurate, etc. So I know in South Africa, well, less is more, we're so focused. But I think what RTF's done well is allowed for things like that.
That's lovely. I'm interested in getting started with tent pegging. Equestrian sports have so many barriers to entry. What is the ideal way for them to begin?
Yeah. So in my opinion, is that you message us on Facebook. I will reply, and I will find you someone who will let you come and try. Because if you had to now go get a horse, go get a lance, go get a sword, and you haven't even figured out if this is something you want to do, there are a lot of clubs that, they offer a lease on a horse, or you can pay for the day, or you can, sign up for a few lessons and learn how to do it. I think the best part of our sport is it's quite a family orientated sport. So in each province is actually, I call them like, what they called, like the family of the province, and everyone sort of slots in with them. So if you are in a province, I can find that family for you, and they'd be more than willing to help develop the sport and have you come in and try. And eventually, when you get to a point that you feel that you could start your own club, or the distance or traveling to that venue is too much for you, you can then start playing. Listen, I know what kind of horse I need. I know the equipment I need. I know the people involved. I think that's the biggest part, is don't just think, you have to be great at the beginning. Sometimes you can just come and enjoy it. I really enjoy what we call rebel dressage. And
rebel dressage.
Yeah,
That's
rebel
great.
dressage.
I love it.
I download some tests, and I do some little circles and things, and like pretend that I am the bee's knees. But like, that's exactly what people need to do, right? Just come, enjoy it, see if you like it. Everyone has a different recipe and a different spice to them. I know my mom, Lillian Baxter, she is more than willing to do demos and courses in your yards. Whereas we actually have about three, we have 3 courses across the country. So there's a course in Beaufort West, there's a course in Bethlehem, and then my mom hosts courses in Berkeley. So if you are in those areas, I can put you into contact with those people. And again, if you say to them, listen, I don't have a horse, I'm 99% sure someone's going to help you out. If you say, I do have a horse, they say, as long as it's not a thoroughbred. But I do have a friend, Claire, shout out, she did ride a thoroughbred, and that was very impressive. So if someone comes right on a thoroughbred, I'm always like,
extra points. I think they should get an extra point for that.
That is, the fact that horse hasn't lost his mind and he's doing this is amazing. Like, well done. You know what you're doing. Yeah.
What advice would you give to people who are doing tent pegging, who want to be better at it?
I guess we need to lose that, what's the saying? I haven't ridden my horse in all year. We need to lose that. Guys, we need to be
proud of our
sport. Yeah, it's not. Be proud of your sport. Be proud of your horse. Love your horse. Be there to win. I love how people are like, oh, I'm not here to win, and then they get bleak when they miss a thing. Like, well, you're obviously here to win. So enjoy it, put your heart into it, put your dedication into it. Call yourself, I do the sport, but you know, do more. Train your horse. The more you train him, the more you're gonna enjoy the day. And I think that practice seriously does make perfect. Like you need to practice. If you have, there's some of us who have years. I think we were doing the calculation, and like the amount of years our team had was over 100 like
That's
years of
amazing.
practice. Yeah, our top team. So that team, you can't look at that guy and think you're gonna beat him. You might beat him at one event, but at the end of the day, after 9 events, he's still gonna come out on top. So you got to put in the hours if you're starting now and you're sitting on ranking number 20. You're just gonna have to put in the hours, and I think
Yeah.
that is the bottom of the line
What
at the end
is
of the day.
what are some of the other successes that the South African tent pegging teams have experienced?
So in the past, we were really good. I think we were sort of the experts
Oh, that's
in
incredible.
pen pegging. Yeah, so we were a wealth of knowledge and experience. So I think from our side that we forget that as much as ITPF doesn't look like what we used to do, like a good old Gymkhana or something, we still won a few little things like getting rings and pegs in, getting lemons in. So there were some things that we have done well. And I think we have two people on the board. We have an honorary member. My mom is the chairperson of the women's committee in ITPF. We have a lot of people in the right places as South Africa. And I think that part we forget, and we just sort of think like, South Africa's dwindling, the numbers are dwindling, it's expensive, but we used to be good, and we just need to get back on the same page to become the best again. And we are up against international riders who ride professionally. Their countries pay them to ride,
Wow.
and we are a hobby, informal, friendly sport that you do on a Saturday and pretend that you haven't ridden in
And they're
six
still
months
nailing
and
it.
and now exactly, and now you have to go up against competitive professionals. So we need to find that space where we encourage people to try. I
Mm.
think like you should be proud if someone is an overachiever.
I like that. What do you think is coming next for tent pegging in South Africa?
So in South Africa we have a lot of work. I think our exco are up for it. They have a lot of things that they need to bring together. We need to sort out our numbers, and there are serious barriers to horse riding. And I think we all just need to get on the same page so that we can get to a place where we can host different countries or we can go to
Mm,
different countries. I think that's the part where there'll be an arm for marketing, how do we get more riders? And then there needs to be an arm for how do we help the professionals, So we can't do both and we can't not do either. So we have
I
to
like
figure out
that. Yeah.
how we do them together, like I think every sport's like that, like market it, you have to make it easier. You have to make it easier. And it's like, if we make it easier, we're not going to win. So we have to find that middle ground of,
Mm,
what does it look like to still win, but to make it accessible to someone who just wants to start. Like I saw a guy drive past, he's like,
absolutely.
how do I start this? And I was like,
Phone me.
yeah,
Yeah.
for me, I get. Yeah. What are
I
you doing on
think
Saturday?
I think, like I said to you early on, I think we can either be depressed or inspired by the fact that all disciplines, I think, are in a similar boat with the barriers
Yeah.
to entry. And but the exciting thing is that we're all in it, and the answer is
Yeah.
kind of always to come together and find that common ground and go from
Yeah.
there. Um,
Yeah.
Finally, what are your three favorite things about tent pegging? What separates it from other
Um,
sports?
and there be people, because it's like my mom. I met my
Yeah.
hubby doing tent pegging. So we were 9 years old when we met, and we only
Oh,
got married a
wow.
year ago. Yeah, so he was there. That's why I said like it's people. And then the fact like when you do find that relationship with a horse, like when you win on your horse means 1,000 times more than when you win on a horse that was trained by someone else. Like it
Mm,
is just such an epic experience to get your horse. Like I know, like I've done a little bit of dressage and I really enjoyed it. And it would always break my heart if someone didn't like my breed of pony, or and like with my tent pegging horse, it doesn't matter. Like I can
yeah.
work him, I can. I can have them sit there waiting on my hands.
It's like
I've
outcomes-based
enjoyed that
education.
part.
Yeah.
Exactly. And I've enjoyed that part of my journey is putting my time into my horses and then reaping the benefit of saying like, put in the time and this is what came out. And yeah, so I enjoy that part. I love the fact you should feel how it's like it slides in. So when you have that sharp sword or sharp lance and you hit the object dead center, there is no feeling like you just like I got it. Like this is epic. Yeah, it's like it's a good feeling. Like it's just it feels like it's like a checklist.
Yeah.
You get like this adrenaline or like a dopamine
It's
that's
a
like,
very
well done,
clear
you did something.
it's a very clear win,
Yeah,
I think, that is very rare in horse sport, let's be honest. So,
yeah,
Bev,
yeah.
how do people you've said people find you on either Facebook or Instagram? What is it? Tentpegging SA.
Yeah, so it's SA10Pegging, SA10Pegging on Facebook, SA10Pegging on Instagram. I'm Bev Baxter, and Hickwit now. And my mom is Deline Baxter. So she puts on a lot of things like what bits to use as a 10 pegger. My mom has a lot of international followers who, want to just learn about how South Africa does it. So you've got a lot of tips and tricks on the different equipment. So she's someone who's doing a lot for trying to get the South African point of view across for 10 pegging. And yeah, so SA 10 pegging, you'll see live things, even RTPF. They have their own Instagram page where they just are doing the most. So you get to see like everyone internationally what they're doing. So yeah, so those are the four platforms I would say. You can always email the email address on the website, but if you send a Facebook message or Instagram, someone from our team will definitely reach out and get hold of you.
Bev, thank you so much for your time tonight. We really loved learning a little bit about Tentpegging, and we look forward to watching your streams. You said in December you've got the junior champs.
Yes,
Okay,
yes.
great.
So SA10 pegging should be live. You should be able to see the kids go down. I think it's going to be very exciting to see the young ones and see how accurate they are.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for joining us tonight.
Cool. Thank you.
If you've just joined us, we are wrapping up talking about speed and swords on horseback. Sounds very exciting. With Tentpegging SA, I suppose we could call her the spokesperson, but also a representative for South Africa. That was Beverly Hixrut. Sorry, Bev, about that. If you need any more information, please visit the SA Tentpegging social media pages as well as the website that is in the link of the body of the podcast. And we'll see you here again next week, Wednesday, for the next South African Equestrian Federation podcast from the horse's mouth.